First off, I really want to thank Kevin for his beautiful speech. Very deep and emotional, beautiful speech. So I don't need to be deep and or emotional. My name is Ian, in case I haven't met you, and I haven't met a lot of you. I'm KL's brother, and what was it, about a year ago, the plan was already set in motion at his wedding, and he, well, my voice is kind of shot, so, alright. So about a year ago, he asked me to be best man after a night of wholesome frivolity, marking the end of spring break. And I accepted, for reasons unknown. And I'd like to say, over the last year, I've put real thought into this speech. And I sort of have. So about 20 minutes ago, when I was really finalizing what I was actually going to say, I looked around and I borrowed someone's phone and I Googled best man speech to get some tips. And it took me all of about 5 minutes to figure out everything on the internet couldn't help me for what I had to say. Because somehow, like KL usually does, this really doesn't fit into the same criteria of just a normal wedding. For instance, a lot of tips say start out with how you met, and that's really not going to work in this situation. So I met KL about 23 years ago, and I knew we were going to hit it off immediately. We lived in the same neighborhood. We liked Raffi, Big Bird. So that wasn't one. That was right out. That was already right out. And a lot of speeches are like, they give tips on, telling jokes. Warn the bride what she's getting into. But they've been together for like 2 years, more than that. And if I know KL, and I think I do, 5 years? I couldn't research that. That wasn't a good one. So if I know KL, after 2 weeks he wasn't hiding anything, because he just doesn't have that sort of willpower. So as much as I'd like to, just rattle off a list of warnings, like, hey Megan, he's got this pair of basketball shorts he's gonna be wearing his underwear that are older than most of the people in this room. I'm looking at you, Grandpa. She's already noticed, like, I got that, I watched it, it's not gonna work. So I had to keep moving on. And a lot of say, if you can't tell jokes, tell some touching memories. Now, if I asked just about everybody in this room to list off 10 adjectives about KL, I'm willing to bet touching is not on anybody's list. So that one's kind of hard, but... And another reason that wouldn't work, I really had to push for it. That's how I'm going to get the most time out of this, and I don't want to just get up and get down and all that. So I had to think, what is the most touching thing he's ever done to me? But that didn't work, because I already told you how he asked me to be best man. That was earlier in the speech. And so I had to think of another one. So I have to tell a good story, touching story about KL. And I have to preface it, because if I don't, it won't sound all that interesting at all. Because if you know KL, you know that stories about him borderline between myth and legend. He can turn the most innocuous things, like mini golfing or buying a big gulp at 7-Eleven, into stories you will be hearing for 5, 10 years down the line. And for me, and everybody has these stories. Just about everybody in the room that has talked to KL at some point has a KL story. And I have tons of them, but you guys all know them, because he tells them all the time. So what I have that you don't are regular KL stories. Stories where he's not acting or trying to embellish or anything like that. Because I've lived with him for, so many years. And it's sort of a side of him you don't really get to see. So, my most touching memory of KL, now that I've sort of prefaced it, you're still going to be kind of confused. Oh, we had to be like 8, well, I had to be like 8. He had to be like 11, 10, 12, give or take. We were sharing a room like we did for most of our lives, actually, to this point. And we were, wrestling around, like we usually did. For some reason or another, we're brothers. And I don't know if he elbowed me in the face or if he punched me on accident, but I got a nosebleed. Just a nosebleed. So I went to the bathroom to clean myself up afterwards. And I can't really tell his side of the story, but all I can imagine is him just doing something else in his room, and all he can is hear from the bathroom is, "Oh no!" So he walks over. He's like, "Ian," he knocks on the door. He's like, "Ian, are you all right?" I said, "I sneezed." And lo and behold, all over the wall, the floor, the mirror, it was all over the place. And without any sort of questioning, without any sort of comment, he just told me, he handed me toilet paper, and he told me to clean myself up and get out of the bathroom. And I did. And so I cleaned myself up, I stopped everything, and I went back. The bathroom was spotless. He took the time and he cleaned it himself. And that's the entire story, so now I need to postface it so it actually means something. I had to have been like 8, 9, or 10, and over those years, Cale had always been an excellent big brother. But he did it in such a way that I didn't even notice. Like, he had that sort of ability to just be there to the point where I didn't even notice him being spectacular. He just always was. He was always there. And for that moment, he slipped. And I saw it. I saw him be the best big brother in the world. And it sort of was an analogy to, I don't know if that's the right word, but to what he always has been. I know that if I ever mess up, if stuff starts getting hairy, if I ever need help, I can always talk to Cale. And somehow he's going to do his absolute best to take care of it without any trouble, without any reward, without anything. And I thank you for that as much as I possibly can. You really have been the best brother anyone really can ask for ever in a lifetime. And I'm so glad you found Megan and found someone else to share that personality with, to now live with. And I can only hope you'll be as happy forever as you've made me happy over my 23 years living. So I'd like to propose a toast to Cale and Megan. May you both be as happy in 50 years down the line as you both have been for the last 5 years.